Hello students, today we are going to discuss about checklist and rating scale which comes under assessment and evaluation chapter. So let's start. So first starting with introduction. What is checklist, or we'll call it is observational checklist. A checklist consists of a listing of steps, activities or behavior which the observer records when an incident occurs. A checklist enables the observer to note only whether or not a trait or characteristics is present. So in the checklist, what happen, in one side we'll write all the statement, in another side we'll give a column for yes or no. So like suppose if any teacher is observing some student during practical, so that student is followed all the steps or not, that we can check through the checklist by ticking on it. Okay, she has done or not. So this is the introduction. Next is definition. A checklist is a list of statements that describe the characteristics and performance of employee on the job, and the rater checks to indicate if the behavior of an employee is positive or negative to each statement. The performance of an employee is rated on the basis of number of positive check. So after that, once you have finished the ticking, we can see how many you got positive and how many you got negative, like how many statement it is yes or no. It may be used for like employment, for the performance or appraisal, and it can be used for the student as well as. Next we have some essentials of checklist. So there are three essentials. One is procedural, one is communication, one is project. So first one is procedural checklist. It's list of steps that must be followed in order. So in the procedural checklist, whatever you are putting the statement, it should be in a order. That example is your hospital site procedure. Then communication checklist, it is encourage the communication in organization. So like in a organization, how you are communicating, how you are following all the steps, that statement should be there. Then project checklist, list tasks that must be completed. So if you got some project, so for that there will be distribute, or there will be list out some statement, like you have collected all the materials, you have got the permission, and you have started to work, and you have make it teams. So like this there will be some list of statement, so that you have to tick it out. So that is called as project checklist. So there are three category. One is procedural, one is communication, and one is project. Different types of checklist we can see. So I'll give you some example, like task checklist, troubleshooting, discipline, coordination, and to do list. Now one by one I'll explain. The first one is task checklist. It's take the form of a how to list. The outline a procedure step by step, listing the instruction that must be followed in order to complete the procedure. Example, like task checklist example I'll see now. Before I can drive a car, I must first put on the seat belt, start the engine, and place the car in gear. So these are the step by step statement. So before starting the procedure, you have to check it. That is called as task checklist. So next we have troubleshooting checklist. This type of list is very similar to a task checklist, but instead of outlining a procedure, it offers a solution should the procedure go wrong. So example I'll tell you, if your computer monitor is not processing an image, you may be asked to answer the following troubleshooting question, like is the monitor plugged in a power source, is the monitor turned on. So like this example if they're asking, that is called as troubleshooting checklist. Next one is discipline checklist. Before investing in a company, you might use discipline checklist to evaluate the chance of return of your investment. So in the discipline checklist are composed to prevent you from making bad decision in the heat of the moment. When you are calm and in a reasoned state of mind, you composed a checklist of procedure that you want to follow or question you want to ask yourself during the decision making process. Like you want to invest in some company, so before that you should ask so many questions regarding your doubts, regarding the profit, and when you are going to back, but when we'll discuss in the meeting we may forget some point. So before that we can make a list what are the question or what are the things we are going to clarify with the team or the company. So that is called as discipline checklist. Next we have coordination checklist. To deal with the problem, you set up a procedure list that force different specialists to communicate with each other. The list requires specialists from the different field to submit information and ask for the details from one another before they can go progress in their individual field. Also, it is known as submitter schedule. Coordination checklists are often used in the large business and organization where the nature of business is such that no one person can understand the whole endeavor. So that is the coordination checklist. Next one is to-do list. I think this is the familiar one, everyone used to do it. The list consists of several tasks that need to be completed. This could be listed in order to of importance or just noted down randomly. It is not considered a failure if the list is not completed immediately. Some to-do list includes long-term task or goal. Just example, anything, this is like regularly everyone is using. Like suppose if you want to do some works but you may forget, so what we can do, we can write in a paper. So once it is done we'll tick on it. Like example, you can see kitchen cleaning checklist. So cleaning refrigerator or fridge, wash walls, strip floors, clean coffee makers. Okay, scrubbing, you have done or not. Where you have done you can put the tick, which one you have not done we can't put the tick. Okay, it means it is not like for achieving or gaining some goal, it's just for your remembrance purpose. Sometimes we may forgot because so much work you are doing, so that's why it is called as to do list. Next we will see how to create a good checklist. Here are some points that you have to follow while preparing checklist. First is checklist should be relate direct to the learning objectives. It needs to be confined to the performance area that can be assessed sufficiently by examining the positive and negative criteria. Clearly specify the characteristics to be observed and have a separate checklist for each candidates. The observer must be trained how to observe and how to record the observed checklist. Okay, that who is observing or who is using the checklist, the person should be trained and they should know what they are observing and how to record it. The person should be evaluated in natural setting and the real situation, and it should be review individual to discuss strength and the weakness of the performance and the formulate to plan to improve the performance. So these are the some criteria for creating good checklist. Next we have advantage of using checklist. It is easy to use and update, require little training, available wherever evaluation is needed, and flexible and can be used with a variety of assessment strategy, and behavior can be recorded frequently. So next is limitation, or we'll say disadvantage. Only the presence or absence of the ability can be tested. See what happened in the checklist, we have only two options, either yes or no, or present or absent, positive or negative, but we can't explain in details. So suppose if you are not doing one step, we'll write it is no, but instead of that what we have done, that we can write in the checklist. So that is the disadvantage. Yes or no type judgment can only be given. How much cannot be tested through the checklist. So for example, if you want to test the storytelling storytelling skill of a student, you can check only whether the student developed or not developed the skill, but you cannot study how much he has developed. So this is about the checklist. So with this we have seen about the introduction, definition, essentials, types, criteria, advantage and disadvantage of checklist and why it is important, and mainly it is needed for the observational, and that is in the practical side to evaluate student. Thank you everyone.